Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Ksenia. My full name means Hospitable Island. In this video, I will be talking about my TBR pile for July, my plans for July. I did start some of these, so that makes this pile of 5 pretty long books somewhat more realistic, but still, I've had my fingers crossed that I will get to it and I will spend less time on my phone and really focus because I'm committing to it in this video. So the first 2 books I did mention in my previous video that I started them in June. So the first book is Tomb of Sand by Gitanjali Shri. Sorry if I don't pronounce that correctly. She's the International Booker Prize winner for this year, and I was planning to read more prize winners, and she seems like a logical first choice because I've never actually read books that won this prize. And I am pretty far in actually because it's quite a fascinating read. It's very sensual in a way, like very visual, very physical. Like it's very visceral in a very good way, and the language is very playful, and I just find it very interesting to read, very involved, like both mentally and emotionally and physically. Like when she describes the sari fabrics and the food and the bustle in the family, it's like it feels very, very real. I feel like I'm there in India, which I have never been to, and this book actually makes me really want to go, just to know the kind of atmosphere and environment that inspired her. This book is about so many things, and it's very layered and complex. So the more I read it, and I'm almost done, I have like 100 pages left, the more I realize why it won the prize. It's very original. It's very distinct in its use of language, and it breaks all kinds of grammar rules, but it's very original in doing so. It's translated by Daisy Rockwell, and I can imagine that translating it from the original was very, very complicated just because of the strange use of language. And they must have had so many conversations back and forth about how to just go about translating such a complex work. You probably, if you're following Booktube, probably already know what this book is about, and I don't really have to go into that, but I would strongly recommend it so far. And the past like 200 pages out of 700, I feel are gonna be like put in that last punch of distinct voice and drama in a way. And it's been very, very moving too, because it talks about the partition of Pakistan and how much it traumatized the main character, this elderly woman, and so much like backstory and context for the beginning of the book comes in at the end of the book in a way that I really appreciate. It makes it feel a lot more complex of a work. So yeah, this is my to finish. The other book that I am also like halfway in is Karl Ove Knausgaard's Summer. It's the last book in the quartet. I skipped winter because I was not in the wintry mood when I got to it. But this piece has both like shorter snippets and longer diary entries, and I find that actually kind of distracts me. I prefer it when he does mostly the longer form, but I don't know, he inserts a kind of metaphysical approach, kind of transcendent look into even the most usual of occurrences that just works for me. Yeah, I find some aspects a little bit more enjoyable than others, but I enjoy the way his mind works. And in this book, he talks a lot about being a writer, thinking like a writer, interacting with other writers, artists, people, and his mind, the way it works, and the sensitivity he brings to it is very distinct to me in a way that I really, really appreciate. So, the next book I plan on reading, which I did not start, is also one of the nominees for the Women's Fiction Prize in the UK, and she didn't win. So I got actually, I think most people expected her to win. Not most, many people expected her to win because she just does so much work in the global world. Like, she gives so many speeches, talks, work with women and empowering women and talking about democracy and the power of fiction. Some of her works were very controversial before, like The Bastard of Istanbul, which I haven't yet to read, but I've been watching so many of her interviews and her talks, and I just really love the wisdom that she brings. So I felt like I should start with the most recent work in a way, because I feel like authors do develop, and it's sometimes nice to read the most read book at this moment. I got this one for pretty cheap at Shakespeare and Company on my trip to the city last weekend, and beautiful cover. And I really look forward to reading it. Yeah, it didn't win the prize, but being in the shortlist is also pretty laudable. Yeah, this one I for sure will get to once I'm done with the other two. And the other two books that I hope to get to, but might not, is Sarton's poetry. I read the other parts, but I want to reread the poetry because it touches differently with the years. And I was just skimming it, and I come across a couple of her poems that I absolutely loved. And now I want to reread the whole selection of poetry in here. And I'll probably also be reading some out loud for my Poetry Mondays series that I'm doing. So stay tuned for that. If you're curious to hear some of my favorite poems of hers, I've read so many of her other works. I came across her like 2.5 years ago, right before quarantine. I read her first book, my first book of hers. It was not her first book. And then I read almost all of her journals and 2 of her novels and several selections of poetry, including this one. But it's been a while, so I want to reread it and share them with you. And the last one that I probably will not get to is Solitude by Robert Cole, Seeking Wisdom in Extremes. It's also on my Books on Solitude TBR list that I compiled for this year. It's about a guy who goes on a retreat or a journey or a pilgrimage to a remote, cold place and spends some amount of months there. I think it's like 3. And I really enjoy the way people think when they are a little bit distanced from society on all of its noise, all of its hecticness, all of the societal like expectations and pressures and stuff like that. So I find that it brings me peace in a way, and also a kind of spiritual perspective on life, which I really appreciate. So yeah, this is my 5th book, which I hope to get to, but probably won't. And that sounds like looks looks like a pretty decent stack. Like I said, I did start these 2, so I will hopefully succeed with this pile, given a very busy summer where I'm doing a lot of painting and gardening and a little bit of traveling. So until next time, if you're reading any of these books, let me know. If you want to read them along with me, I would also love that. I always love talking books and sharing thoughts on them, favorite quotes and stuff. So, yes, until next time, have a lovely summer. Bye.